Hello and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting tech initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome TravelAI co-founder and CEO John Lyotier onto the show. TravelAI is an applied AI company that connects high-intent travelers to the largest travel websites in the world and over 10 million properties through a network of interconnected brands. The company was an early spin-out of Canadian-based Left Technologies, which John also co-founded, and built upon years of experience in online marketplaces and e-commerce. By partnering with the world's largest travel retailers, TravelAI matches millions of travelers with their dream destinations each year, facilitating more than $1.5 billion in gross booking value and 6 million nights booked since 2016. But as I alluded to earlier, this is hardly John's first go-around as a founder and entrepreneur. Today and in his past role, John strives to lead by example, making even the most difficult business decisions based upon what is right for all stakeholders, while advocating for responsible growth and championing sustainable commerce. And I can't wait to pick John's brain on his journey into the startup space, his experience as leading entrepreneur, and what's on deck for the rest of 2024. So without further ado, welcome to the show, John. Awesome. Well, I know I gave a little bit of background there, but I'd love to turn it over to you. Tell me a little bit about how you got started as an entrepreneur and what got you into, I guess, the startup space in the first place.
So liberal arts major for the win. Like many people, you probably talk to more people who are tech founders than anything, but I'm a liberal arts degree in English and art history. And the initial plan was to go into law. This is many, many years ago. I don't want to age myself too badly, but this is pre-internet. And I realized I don't want to be a lawyer. So what am I going to do? I thought I'd get into the marketing space, had to do a bit of advertising copywriting. And I got talking to a bit of a mentor and advisor at the time. And I was thinking about, I think I should go back to school. I want to go study this new thing called e-business. It's kind of like regular business, but has an E in front of it, and is the start of this new internet revolution. And we started looking at different things. He said, well, why don't you start a company? And I said, you can do that. I don't have to have a business degree. I could just start a company. I said, sure, just start a company. And the advice he gave me, which I've passed on to many entrepreneurs since, is take the 20 hours a week that I was planning to go back to school part-time and the 20 grand per year that I set aside to fund my education. So just start something. I can guarantee it's going to fail, but you will learn. I said, okay. So I did that. This sort of 96, 97, internet was just starting to become a thing. You start a project, realize that's not going to work. You just try something else. And eventually you're off and running. Eventually you quit your job, you do it full time. It didn't work. But you try, you learn. And eventually that first startup, I sold to $1 to my co-founder because I needed to go get a real job, as my wife called it, as a mortgage that kicks in. But that was the start. I realized that at my very core, I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that word meant when I was in school. You don't plan to be an entrepreneur. I didn't at that point, but you have a chance to go out and create things from nothing. And that's the fun bit.
I love it. And to your point earlier, you are correct. We very rarely have liberal arts backgrounds joining us on the show. I mean, I'm in marketing. I'm our content guy. I went to school for print and multimedia journalism, when very quickly there wasn't really going to be a career in print journalism. So I found my way into marketing, but I love the opportunities that come about unexpectedly when you're not trying to overplan. For instance, I didn't think I would be in the tech space, and now I am loving that I get to work with Boast and talk to founders like yourself and actually do a lot of the journalism that I meant to do when I went to college and graduated.
Tell stories.
You're on the floor. Exactly. It is the best. Now, I'd love to know about TravelAI in particular. How have things evolved from when TravelAI started and was at its genesis to today and the company that you're steering now?
Well, I'll start with a very specific moment in time. This is the first week, February 2020. And I was in the Hong Kong airport traveling back from our engineering center. We have an engineering center in Bangladesh. At that point, we were working on some really interesting projects, both in travel with our Left Travel company. We also had some really experimental tech in mobile mesh networks and data connectivity. So can you people with a blockchain underpinning across the internet or across device to device without using the internet as mobile mesh network? It was really cool. Very experimental, wasn't making money, and we're being entirely sustained by the travel business. But in this first week of October 2020, traveling back through Hong Kong, I turned to my head of data science and said, tell me again, this pandemic is not a big deal. I said, no, we're up 67% or 87% month over month. We were on a rocket ship growth at that time. So we had about 200 employees globally working in different sub companies. We had a Swiss holding co. We had the Bangladesh entity. We had people spread around the world. And of course, the pandemic became a big thing. 95% of our revenues were coming from international travelers. So you went from a company that was winning awards for culture, community engagement, best company to work for. So used to do culture tours of our office. People come by and see how we did business differently. And it went away in an instant. Fast forward then to August, when the company officially went bankrupt, the parent entity. And we said, well, what are we going to do now? 2 days later, we formed a new holdco. I said, okay, we had our mesh technology was called Right Mesh. We had the left travel side of the business. We had left, we had right. We went down the pandemic and we said, let's go up next. So we created a new company called Next Ventures. And we had no idea really what we were going to do. We started to look around at different opportunities and we recognized that our core expertise remained in the travel space. We were very good at it. The previous decade, yes, we were a travel company, but we were more a data company masquerading as a travel company. And so we don't understand travel, but what's the future? And for us, it was very clear. The future is going to be all about AI. This is pre-ChatGPT. This is pre what we know AI today, but we knew that the future is all about bringing efficiency into the market. And really any technological leap is about bringing new efficiency into a market. Most disruptive technology of our generation, way more than the mobile space, way more than the internet, probably since the microprocessor, I would put it in that level, is how do we then now combine the largest industry on the planet, travel, with the most disruptive technology, AI, and where are the opportunities within that? So we said, let's just keep on iterating. And we had a whole bunch of culture, philosophy things in the before times. Some of those poured over because they're tied to yourself as entrepreneurs. But we said, well, what's our core value proposition is how do we operate at speed and scale? How do we go quickly? How do we use these new tools to our advantage to build things we couldn't build before or scale in ways we couldn't scale before? But most importantly, how do we do it in such a way that we're profitable from day one? Because we didn't want to go down that route of having to investors talk to various people. We want to make sure that you eat what you kill. Like it's, if you're out hunting, you want to make sure that you have your own ways of surviving. So that's been bit of our philosophy, and that serves us really well. We're now back from that 200 to 0, back to north of 80, profitable from day one and growing rapidly.
I love that. And I'm going to pull back on a few things that you had mentioned there too. So originally before too, you were really more of a data company, but you recognized that going forward in the future, travel was really your sweet spot. That was your specialty. That was maybe your market differentiator. I'd love to know a little bit about what sets TravelAI apart from other travel companies in the broadest sense, because I think there's also a misconception maybe about what a travel company is. Like I immediately think of TripAdvisor. That's a little bit of my Boston bias here, but I love an explanation about what is the differentiator here? How can people use your product? And even a little bit more about the AI of it all, because I think it's really interesting, some of the threads that you started pulling on there, because one of the topics that always comes up is what is AI really? And people always come back to the generative AI of it all, but there's so many layers to the conversation. I would love to know your take.
So lots of layered questions within that. I think if you think back about and go back to storytelling, the number one rule of storytelling, we were talking about this in the pre-conversation, is you need to arrest the customer expectations. They think one thing and you do that. Our customer is not the traveler. Not that we don't care about travelers, but they're not our customer. Our customers are large travel sellers. We work closely with Booking.com. We work closely with Expedia, especially through their Vrbo division. Large travel sellers rely on us to drive high intent, not defective customers. The traveler becomes the product. How do we get high intent customers to our customers, allowing those people who have travel intent to find exactly what they want? Within that, they often talk about every great technological leap allowed you to do things that you couldn't previously do. So go back to my earliest startups. In those early days, I was a big proponent of getting a customer to raise their hand and really from the automated marketing expectations of, my name is John and I want this. And if you take that express consumer intent and fast forward really over the next 25 years of my career, it really has been about, can you get a customer to raise their hand and say, I have a desire for a 3-bed vacation rental in Cape Cod or just out of the coast, maybe down there or wherever I want to go. And as soon as they enter that into the search engine, that's expressing the consumer intent. When we started into the travel space, and really why I said we were a data company first, is that we kind of stumbled into it a little bit by accident. We weren't planning on being a travel company. We sold a high-end domain name in this space and company on the verge of collapse at that point. This is back in 2013. He said, well, the previous business model in the first 3 years wasn't working. What now? I said, well, they seem to like this travel thing. Let's do more of it. Long story there as well. Don't need to go out the podcast. But yes, which data do you want to store? This is 2013. I said, I don't know. Let's just store everything. Any API call, any query, any search, any price, any availability calendar. Let's just store it all. The reason we made that decision was that we knew that data at that point was being called the new oil. And if you had data, value can be created from that data. That started to basically form the basis for us to identify where there are high intent travelers, what they're looking for, what their hope streams, desires are. And when you know that information, you can now give them content that you're looking for. So we started to look at, in the application of AI, is how to then use that data to build more product. And our business is kind of simple. We have what we call the content traveler data loop. Content, and it's not blogs. It could be blogs. It could be podcasts like yourself. But really, for us, content is supply. Every single vacation rental, every single hotel, every single activity, every single flight, every single language, it's all content. The more content you have, the more efficiently you can create or generate content, the more travelers you can attract. The more travelers you attract, it may be organic traffic, it may be paid traffic, it may be social traffic, it may be travelers who come back from an email campaign. But the more content you have, the more travelers you attract. Yes, we make money on the transaction of every time a traveler books for us, but our number one thing that we try to get from every single traveler is data, what their hope streams, wants, desires, and where they want to go. And if we can do a really good job of matching them up to those elements, we get commission from that. But that data, in the before times, you see content brings travelers generate data informs content. And the age of AI is no longer about data informing content, but data generates content. And as soon as you do that, your loop goes really, really quickly. So from our perspective, we use AI because it creates efficiencies that couldn't be done before. We don't take our technology and go out to other people in the market saying, hey, here's a SaaS product that you can build your content site with. We build tools ourselves to make ourselves go super efficiently. We have a content engine that's basically LLM agnostic, that allows us to go out and create content at scale. So I saw something this morning that they're using GPT-4 Mini, hyper efficient attached to it, to replace property title across a lot of our sites. So how do you rewrite a title for a property across 6 million different properties? Human can't do that. The machine can do that. Just push a button, note populates few dollars of generation costs, and you now have 6 million new property titles. We have another product called Presto. That is our AI site generation tool that you literally can push a button to make a website. Our entire focus is trying to create as many micro niches as we can to create a true one-to-one experience. So eventually, Paul, you'll have your own website. Eventually, you'll have no website, but you have that experience that's exactly for you for that moment in time. If you go back to large brand, they're as generic as possible. We take it down into bird watching in Italy. We have a site for that. People who love pickleball when they travel, we have a site for that. Cabin rentals in Mount Baker, we have a site for that. Whatever those small niches are, the data basically has told us there's an opportunity here to build a site, and then the machine builds the site. And then we make it better and better and better, all through generative technologies. But really the data is what's creating the site in the first place. Long answer. Hope that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. To be honest, you touched on a few things that I don't want to sound like I'm just cheerleading Boast out of the gate, but it's very simpatico with what we're doing over here in our mission, especially in terms of how we talk about AI, for instance. We're using it to help our own teams work more efficiently. We're not necessarily trying to offer founders a SaaS solution to get their shred claim out the gate, or to get their grant application out the door, or to just anything like that. It's a way for us to do the heavy lifting for the people who partner with us so they can focus on driving innovation, but it allows us to seamlessly integrate with their systems, get the data that we need to do our jobs better. And it's not a shiny product that we're trying to put in front of people like, hey, we're going to get you the most money and you're not going to have to think about it and you're not going to have to be giving hours and hours of your time. It's just about making sure we can access your data seamlessly so that we can get you that maximized claim at the end of the day. Could you explain to me a little bit about how you guys achieve that?
Sure. We aligned ourselves with really good partners, including our travel selling partners that we had worked with. worked with Booking.com for many years before. We had a great relationship with them. We had a great relationship with the team from Verbo/Expedia. And we went back to them and said, here's our opportunity. Yes, we were doing a lot of great things with you before the times. We believe there's still opportunities there. Will you work with us again? So if you think about a high margin ticket such as travel, if you have a $10,000 package where you have your everything into it, there's a lot of money being spent by the middlemen in the middle, ourselves included. The host at the end of the day may get a chunk of that, but there's a lot of commissions being earned by people. So if you had a single website focused on a small little street or neighborhood, I think the neighborhood you talk about it in Boston, we probably should have an area of Boston targeted toward the site in that area because some people were searching for it. And if you were an independent operator, you can say, well, if I can get a booking per week from this place, I can earn $100 per time. That's enough that you can become ramen profitable. Now you just scale that from there. Our big challenge going through, and we introduced, so we used to actually work with Boast maybe 4 times as well. We're doing a lot of things here, but at being part of the Vancouver tech community, actually we're in the suburbs of Vancouver, there are a lot of people you rely on an everyday basis. We had a great relationship with Boast over years to do shred claims and do all those different things. And it was a great resource to keep us going. But we started to realize, okay, if we're going to launch a new kind of company for a new time, how do you be remote first? How do you control costs? How do you do all those different things? But we started working with Jiraj over Get Fresh Ventures to introduce us again. And said, okay, we're a bit of a different type of startup. We're a startup in that we're basically brand new. Now we're 3 years in, but we also have scars of the last 14 years. So you have a lot of these systems and understanding the process and the relationships and the partnerships and the accounting and the understanding of how business works. But we're basically at ground zero and we want to run profitably from the start. So can you get one sale? If you get one sale, how do you get 2? How do you get 10? Now do about 1,000 transactions a day. It's how do you basically take that going up and up and up? And really working with Jiraj and the team at Get Fresh was, what's our scaling strategy? How do we grow? And there's some unique elements in the travel space that we get paid post-consumption. So today is the 31st of July, and we're recording this. Somebody who searches today will cost us money at the end of August. Because basically an ad click today or generation cost today creates revenue in the future. If it's an ad click, it creates revenue basically almost right away, but you don't get the cash until post-consumption. Maybe they're booking for next summer, which means we get paid next fall. Now you have a 14-month lag in that cash cycle. Our cash cycle is about 4 to 5 months on average of a transaction occurs, a search occurs, and then you recoup the money afterwards. So work with Jiraj to basically create a cash flow model that allows to say, if you absorb costs now, how much debt do you have in order to cash flow the business? And we've used debt quite effectively to grow, reinvesting in profits back in business to grow further, and the cycle just continues. So that's kind of where we started from. But if you're in the largest industry in the world in travel, there's a lot of money to be made because there's lots of inefficiency. There's rooms to bring efficiencies into the market that weren't there before.
Absolutely. You can derive solutions to these problems. If they exist out there, go for them. I love that. And actually, you started touching on my next question was going to be involving members of the community and how it takes a village in some instances to get those capital strategies or those cash flow strategies locked in. One thing I love about Jiraj and the team at Get Fresh Ventures is it's not rinse and repeat what they do. They're not trying to apply the same formula to every team that they work with. They hear what your goals are. You want to be profitable from day one, and you need a strategy that will deliver on. And they have the experience and know-how to get it done. It's really funny. I'm thinking back to my interview with Jiraj that we did about a month or 2 ago. And it kind of ties back to your liberal arts background, to be honest, because he has such a different entree into the entrepreneur space than you do, than others do. But it's given him perspective from when he was a teenager to today, where he's a father and he's a rock star in the Vancouver ecosystem. But he has seen it all, and he's not trying to repeat the formula. In fact, I think it's probably boring for him if he had to repeat the formula with every single founder he worked with. But he worked with you guys to map out that strategy, leverage others in the ecosystem too. I appreciate the shout out to Boast and glad that we worked with you guys way back when. Our team has benefited from those same team members too. We like being elbow to elbows with fellows within the ecosystem. And I think that's exciting for us as a company And it's also been successful because, again, they have your back. You have that expertise at hand. You can tap into those community members. I'd love to know, are there any other members of the community who maybe want to shout out here or who have helped you guys along your way?
Yeah, I guess there's a couple, but I'll sort of touch on something that you said as well. My first startup was sort of got any traction in 1997. It came from going, really, you form the partnerships from your friends and networks and people that you had. The very first thing you do is start going to events like Ideas on Tap, an old event that you say go to, where you basically, for $5, you get a burger and a pint, and you come and you talk with other people who believe the internet can be something special. At that event, so I had my existing company, but I got part chumming around with another guy who'd also doing a different startup at that time, and became close friends. And he became the friend you always go to when times are tough at work or whatever the challenge was in your startup. And I'd unload him all the issues and challenges I was facing with, and he would do the same to me. Fast forward 13 years later, and Chris became my co-founder, but we wouldn't have been partnering up 13 years later if it wasn't for those industry events that you go to today. And so I would really encourage any founder today to get involved in the community. I just joined the VTJ community, that's Vancouver Tech Journal. They have a new group from that side, but they host amazing things. Simon puts on amazing events for other, like there's so many people who are trying to foster that community, and you get to bounce ideas off us. I became part of a group called Founders Network, where founders helping founders. It's both peer mentorship of the founders. Chapters all around the world now, but you become your tribe of your local founders who want to help other founders. And sometimes it's talking about challenges you're facing in business. Sometimes it's challenging about your board dynamics, your investor dynamics, your team issues, whatever it would be. Sometimes you need to just rely on those people. But fast forward, so back in 97, it was hard to start a company. You had literally, we had servers underneath our beds. And then you get we now are upgrading to a data center at Pier 1 co-location facility. And then 10 years later, you start working in the new thing called the cloud. And it becomes easier because you can rely on all the new Amazon server. We're proud boosters of Amazon, and the AWS team has been really supportive of us. We've gone through various startup programs from AWS over the years. We obviously give them a lot of money because our server and hosting and the data generation is not cheap, but they've been very supportive of that journey as well. Fast forward now, sort of another decade later, and the cost of starting a company has changed once again. They have a great team that I rely on. We have great advisors from our legal counsel to our accounting services. But the tools and technology that we have at our disposal now to brainstorm with your AI agent, to work asynchronously. We're back over 80. We still have an engineering center in Dhaka. I have SEO in Asheville, North Carolina, and Thailand. I have design in Sri Lanka and Finland. We have an advisory call with a group that's working with us. Somebody was in Munich, somebody was in Switzerland. It's a global world. And by having the different tools and technologies that are available, you can brainstorm with the machine and share those outputs with people elsewhere in the world. Yeah. So they always talk about it takes a village to raise a child. It's the same way it takes a community to raise a company. And that's really where we couldn't be more grateful for the support along the way.
Absolutely. And I love the point you've made about it being a global village. I'm based here in Boston. I feel like I'm a member of the Vancouver tech community because so many of my team is up there, and that's where Boast was born. But again, I'm talking with my CRO up in Toronto. I'm talking with my buddies, Anastasia and Golnaz out in Vancouver right now. And even Daraj, he's a good pal at this point. And I love that the opportunities seem to open up. I think as a result, if we need to find a silver lining in all of this, I think that's at least one of them. I am exposed to more today than I would have been if I didn't get the push to go become a full-time remote worker. Because again, I was office bound previously, love the Boston tech ecosystem, but the opportunities for what I really wanted to do didn't necessarily lie in an existing opportunity here. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but just one I really wanted to bring back because it personally resonated with me a lot. And again, just the realities of the business. Yeah.
Yeah. And if we go back and look at 10 years into the company when the pandemic hit, and I said we had 2-year TIA award, the Tech Innovation Awards. Many of your audience probably would know that the TIA is from BC. We were winners. We beat out the behemoths of attractions on demands and the things to win our Culture and Community Engagement Awards. We're the small company that could. But by the end of that 10-year journey, I was exhausted. I was traveling 60% of the year around the world. We had a sub company in Switzerland and back to Bangladesh and down to Singapore. Like I was traveling constantly. The pandemic happened, and in a way, even though it was horrific for so much of the populace and people died, it was a bit of a relief. It gave me a chance to reset, to focus. We started anew. Like, do you go back to 0 employees and what's important? What are your core values? Because you get entrenched after 10 years. And it's not that we had bad things going. We had a great thing going, but it was a chance to reset. And in that reset, you know what's important. You know who's important, and you frankly know not to take shit from anybody or how the whole game works. You get to do it again. One thing we talked to him about is that we have a unique opportunity to speed run entrepreneurship. Because if you're starting a company from scratch, if you're a young entrepreneur, like I was my first job at 25 or 24, I said it wasn't even 25 yet, you'll make mistakes. You will make lots of mistakes. And then quickly, it's all about how quickly can you recover from those mistakes, fail fast, fail often, learn from it and grow on. But now as we go here as 50-year-old plus aged entrepreneurs, we can fail quickly, but we know that it's not going to break us. We know what metrics drive the business. And as a result, we have a lot of time. It's amazing how much time I now save by not debating somebody's job title. It's amazing how much time you save by not sweating about little things or being the speed of decision making that you can make, as opposed to, is this the right decision? Is it the wrong decision? No, and you hum and haw. Now you get to just run through all those things because you've been before. You said you have those 14 years of scars or careers with the scars to help you make the right decisions. And that's made all the difference.
I love that. And to pile on the Daraj Love Fest too, he's proof in action of everything that you just mentioned. I remember we did a webinar with him. I had no idea he was on vacation in Las Vegas because he was just killing it. We didn't even plan necessarily. He was answering the questions. He does his founder's therapy. So obviously this is second to him. But then out of nowhere, I saw his daughter just open the door. They were in a hotel room in Las Vegas. It didn't even faze him. He didn't even think of it necessarily as doing work. He's like, oh yeah, I got this, my commitment. Then I'm going to go live my life on top of it. And that is great perspective that you can really leverage when you work with the members of the community. But I will leave it at that for Daraj of it all. I'd love to know before we end up, what's on deck for 2024? What can we look forward to for TravelAI, you personally? How's the rest of the year looking for you?
So the rest of the year is looking great. We've been talking about trying to basically pursue doublings, as we call it. Can you double year after year after year? And if you have that repetitive growth, great. So we doubled last year. We'll double again this year, and hopefully we'll double again next year. From a growth perspective, we'll do about 300 million in gross booking value. All of our money. I wish it was all our money, but that's the total transaction value. We make a small percentage of that. But if we're earning a small percentage of every single transaction and doubling, really it goes back to feeding the engine. That more data gives us more content, gives us more travelers. I think there's been no better time to be a technology entrepreneur than this AI age, that you can innovate and create things in ways you couldn't do before. We're really excited about some of the potential around AI agents and the co-pilots of the business. But I think from our perspective, we really look forward to starting to tell our story a bit more, because even in the before times, we were this quiet little company out in Maple Ridge that nobody ever heard about. And even now, we're the $30 million revenue, whatever it would be at the end of this year, profitable company that nobody really hears about. But I think we have to start telling our story, if not to help other entrepreneurs on their journeys, but also to basically give credit to our team that says, hey guys, kudos. 3 years ago, we were 0 and now we're 30. They need the smack on the back to say, job well done. So that's coming up this year. Lots of new products. Somebody asked me, would we ever take our products to others as opposed to just using them ourselves? Because we're using all these tools just internally. Now, and I said to some advisors this morning that why would we ever take our technology to market when we get to take advantage of the competitive advantage we built? Like it's because we're using our tools to market. That may change, of course. We may change direction, say maybe we should go out and offer a SaaS product to other content creators or travel bloggers or whomever. For now, we have to take advantage of the fact that we have a great thing going. We should start feeding the ecosystem.
Absolutely. Feed that engine. I love it. And I think you guys are definitely poised to do it from everything that we just heard on this call. John, this is fantastic. I'm very excited to keep tabs and see what happens for you guys over the course of 2024. But I cannot thank you enough for hopping on the mic with me. This was a pleasure.